Meta has struck a landmark deal with CoreWeave, securing scarce NVIDIA GPU capacity through to 2031, reshaping the cloud and AI infrastructure race as well. Let's head to Massachusetts in the States. We're joined by Brad Gastworth from Circular Technology. Brad, good to see you. What exactly does CoreWeave provide that AWS and Azure currently don't?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. They actually provide the same data center experience, except for they're neutral. So if you're competing against an Amazon or competing against a Microsoft, you'd want to go in a neutral place for AI potential workloads. And CoreWeave is a good solution. I mean, wow, what happens in 1 week? They get 22 billion in deals. Now it's going to take some time to get new capacity. Clearly, it takes some time to build this infrastructure, but it just shows you that some of the largest companies in the world want to go to these smaller sort of neo clouds.
How does the deal, I guess, guarantee Meta long-term access to GPUs?
Yeah, I mean, basically, CoreWeave has agreements with NVIDIA for another 15 plus years on their their super high-end Blackwell chips, so like the best AI generated GPU, and they have supply agreements for another 15 years plus or minus, and this is going to guarantee Meta some of that exposure to the latest and greatest chips. Now, Meta's also still buying it themselves as well, but ultimately, this it definitely secures them allocation.
Talk to us about, I guess, GPU scarcity and why it's such a critical issue at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually it's a major issue in the supply chain, and it's something that I believe will just only get worse. Right now, Taiwan Semi is building these parts on their advanced node. So to simplify it, basically on the latest and greatest technology to build these chips, there's only so much production that can be made. So you have a scarcity of how much can be built, and there's significant demand by every large hyperscaler and anyone building for AI workloads. So significant demand and just not enough parts.
Why is this such an important thing for Meta at the moment?
It's a great question, Aaron. Right now I think Meta's trying to diversify. I mean, it's showing that they're willing to go to these, secondary market to an infrastructure play instead of building an infrastructure themselves. Now, Meta's clearly still doing that and building their own data centers, but it is interesting. I mean, it's certainly diversifying away from just their internal. Maybe there's a thought that they can supply, or CoreWeave can supply some capacity quicker, or there might be some workloads that will work on CoreWeave's centers. But ultimately, I think it's diversification.
What's unusual about this is we are seeing, I guess, Meta really branch out from what it's famous for, being Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp. What do you think the grand plan is for Mark Zuckerberg at the moment?
I mean, look, he's spending more money than any other company to gain talent within artificial intelligence. I mean, he's put pay packages out there that people have never heard of ever in terms of the dollars that he's attracting and paying people. So, you're talking 9 figures, 100 million type pay packages to some of the latest, the best engineers building artificial intelligence. And I think he just has, grand expectations. I mean, clearly, he's a brilliant guy who's executed incredibly well. And I think if you're betting on a company and a person, I mean, he's executed. So it's hard to ignore what he's going to do. Now, is it truly known what his true aspirations are? Not really. But I do think that in terms of the companies that will win out long term are the ones that invest, or that are the ones that are investing the most right now, and they certainly are.
It's interesting. It feels like the story of Meta really replicates the story of traditional media now, so heavily reliant on advertising for revenue that they are constantly trying and looking for different things. You mentioned that he's brilliant and execution, but the metaverse did not come across as brilliant with that execution, particularly from the way the market saw it. He then has quickly pivoted as well to AI. Is there a risk that they just keep throwing money at something to get away from relying on advertising, and each time they do, they're spending money but not seeing a return?
I mean, they're still generating significant profit. So I mean, the company's they are executing well. And I agree with you, the metaverse, but I mean, if you look in the future, I think the metaverse is going to be a significant part of their story. I truly believe that's going to be something in 5 to 10 years that, it'll be the buzzword of, how companies are making money. So I don't think that story is anywhere over. I just don't think we're not going to be generating revenue or profits from metaverse type opportunities anywhere in the next few years. That being said, on the artificial intelligence, that's ramped up significantly faster than I think a lot of people expected. And I mean, it's benefiting these companies. I mean, look, Meta's actually had some really good financials over the last few quarters, and I expect that to continue. So, I mean, yeah, they generate a lot from advertising. They have one of the best global reaches with their, their user group, and looking at all their users. I mean, they have some of the most in the world, and they're able to monetize that with advertising.
It's interesting, yeah, advertising. I'm just looking now, 98% of Meta's revenue comes from advertising at the moment. Do you think that AI will help them with the advertising revenue, or do you think that AI will help to replace it?
It's a great question. I mean, directly, I don't know. I do think it ultimately will help them more so than not help. I think that there's interesting things to do when you have artificial intelligence and helping.
There's the chart I've just brought up that shows that.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
That's where they make their money from. It's incredible.
Yeah, clearly. And I mean, the other thing, if you look at it, and it's a good point, Aaron, because unlike some of the hardware things where if you look at Quest or you look at the VR, AR on the glasses, the hardware sides have been, huge disappointments for this company, right? They haven't executed very well on the hardware side and doing some of those partnerships. But I mean, they're still monetizing. They're still making significant money. So, I mean, this isn't a company that's losing money by any means. They're still growing. But I do think artificial intelligence will help their ads be more targeted. And I think that's ultimately will pay off for their large install base. But yeah, I mean, are there other competitors? Absolutely. I think when TikTok comes back on, obviously that delay, I think, benefited Instagram and YouTube and some other rivals. But, Instagram certainly benefited, which helped Facebook during the TikTok noise. But, when the US gains ownership of the US entity, I think, maybe they lose some more to TikTok because of, the recent noise that TikTok had. But ultimately, they're still going to execute. It'll be interesting with AI. I'm not betting against them right here.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that about TikTok. Now we have a bit more certainty about how that deal is likely to look. We're still waiting to hear from the Chinese about whether or not they've agreed to it, but certainly it's been announced, and it sounds like a partnership involving Rupert Murdoch and Larry Ellison, as well as you and I have discussed. Does TikTok become the meta killer?
Yeah, I mean, that's no, I don't think it becomes the meta killer. Will it take more share from Instagram? I think it certainly will continue to do well, and it probably maybe takes a little share from Instagram, but Instagram is also still growing and doing well, and YouTube is still doing well. So it shows that there's enough demand for competing products within the short term or short form video. But yeah, I mean, it's a good point here. And will the Chinese accept those terms? I mean, to me, the valuation was so low. I mean, we're talking at fractions of what people most, like, especially experts like myself, would have thought. I would have thought you'd see like a 35 to 45 billion price tag, and it's coming in like less than half of that. So that's quite surprising. Will the Chinese accept it? There's some other things in there that I think are sort of raise the flag. But time will tell. We can't guesstimate there.
All right, let's go back to CoreWeave just as we finish up. But talk to us about, I guess, the scale of capital investment that CoreWeave will need to meet for this demand. What do you think investors will be slugged out for?
Yeah, I mean, it's another great question, Aaron. Ultimately, I don't know what the number is going to be. I mean, they're getting these deals in terms of the payments and how they're being paid and the structure of it. There's a lot that is not known. I wouldn't be surprised if they do get some nice upfront fees, and that's going to help them deliver. But right now, most of their infrastructure is pretty much filled at capacity, so it's not really going to help here in the near term. And will it help secure things sooner than what they can do themselves? I think that's a diversification bet. But they will need money, and the total amount it's unknown at this time.
All right, good to hear from you, of course, as always. We'll talk to you again soon. Brad Gasworth there in Massachusetts today. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Aaron. Talk to you soon.